This is the SketchUp model for a wall cabinet designed by Michael Pekovich, which was featured recently in Fine Woodworking magazine. And more recently, he's been doing some kumiko woodworking, making some little panels, and in the background of a video that he and Ben Strano did showing the making of the kumiko, there was a modified version of this cabinet that has that kumiko panel in it, and I thought it would be kind of interesting to modify his cabinet in the SketchUp model and demonstrate how I drew the kumiko for his cabinet on the stand that features one of these kumiko squares. Maybe that's a rosette. I'm not sure what that unit would be called. This is an interesting exercise in using what you've already got drawn and referencing off of that. You don't need to know a lot of dimensions, and you don't need to enter much information. You can just sort of draw this all graphically. So here's how I went about doing that. So here's the original cabinet with the unmodified door, and I'm going to use this as a reference for drawing the parts that I need to make for the kumiko panel. I'm going to start by just hovering over this end point, and then I can back up here and make sure I've got that blue dotted line trailing this cursor. And then I'm going to, let's orbit around here a little bit to the front. I'm just going to draw a tall, thin rectangle. So it's 1/8 of an inch wide. And I don't know what the final height needs to be yet. I've just made it 5 inches. We'll figure out, without doing any math or anything, how much height we really need there, and we can take care of that later. Push-pull, we'll give that some 3D-ness, and I'm going to make that a component, and I'm not going to worry about names for this demo. You could if you wanted. And now I'm going to copy that, and I'm grabbing it by that corner right there, and I'm going to copy over. I'm going to hit the red or the right cursor key, which locks it on the red direction. Then I can do this and make sure that I'm on that point there. That moved the selected copy over in the red direction. Now this is going to get divided. I'm going to be making 2 square sections, and each of those is divided in half vertically. So I'm going to hit enter /4, and that creates 4 equal spaces between the verticals. Now let's make the horizontal. Make the bottom one anyway. And so I didn't need to enter any dimensions to draw that rectangle because I'm using what I've already drawn. We'll make that 1/8 of an inch thick. Triple click with the select tool, G to create a component, and there's the horizontal. Now, before I make copies of that, I need to know where to go with those. And so what I'm going to do is from here to here, I'm going to come out 45. Could have used the protractor for that, and just use the index mark on the protractor. Now I know where the top of the kumiko frame will be. The outside edge will be where the cursor is right now. I'm going to copy this up, hit enter /2, enter, and that gives me, you can see 2 larger squares and the small ones in there. Now we can trim the verticals to height. And while I'm at it here, I'm going to put in a guideline diagonally there to mark the center of this window here. Alright, now we need to make our diagonals, and I'm going to use what I've already drawn. This time I'm going to find the midpoint of this component, and I'm going to copy it over, and then I'm going to immediately use Make Unique so I don't forget that. And rotate that over like so. So that piece is much longer than we need it to be, but that's alright. We'll take care of that shortly. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this, turn the other way, and this one's going to get trimmed rather dramatically because it only needs to be a little short section, and we'll do that in a moment. Let's see here. We'll get rid of some stuff. We might as well trim these parts while we're at it. So I'm using the line tool on the opened component, and I'll push that to length. Notice that the other one got trimmed too. What I really should do here is make this one unique. Actually, let me undo that, because I might as well trim both of these at the same time. I just hit Control Z to do that, because I don't care about that part at the top. So double click, that trims that one. Now let's go ahead and make that unique so that I don't mess that up later. Now this time I'm going to copy this piece and I'm going to put it up there. And again, I better make that unique. And now we'll rotate that 22.5 degrees. And then let's open that one for editing, and we'll go ahead and trim the bottom. And since this one, since the bottom edge was right at the corner point here, I had to click an extra time to drag out the two lines here. The first one I did, the end of it was way down here at this corner, so when I drew the miters, it worked out exactly the way it should. And one push-pull, it really amounts to the same sort of thing here. Now this one gets copied, and again, I'll just rotate that into position. Now, I'm going to leave these two related to each other, but I need to flip this one. You see, when I open this for editing and select this face, we'll call that the outside face here, and it's the inside face that's selected here. So if I right click on that and choose flip along components red, you can see the components red direction here. Now if I go ahead and open this one again, you can see it's the outside face on both of those. So those will get trimmed correctly. And now we need to figure out where we're going to cut these off. It's actually going to be from this point 45 degrees here and 45 degrees from here. So let's trim this one first. And then I'm going to just trim one of these. clear away the guidelines, and you can see those are all cut now. So now I need to put these into this section. I could rotate those around. I'm going to use flip along though. So I'm just going to move these over a little ways, and I've got a keyboard shortcut for the flip. So I'm just going to press that and put that right in that corner. And I also need to flip it in the vertical direction. Actually, now I need to move that down there. So it's 2 flips to get that. Now, that's one section. Let's make it another section there, and this will get flipped vertically, and we'll select all of that and copy those over to there. Now this time they get flipped along the red direction, and now we'll deselect those verticals and copy those over into that corner. Come on. Let's move that. There we go. I think I didn't grab it at the actual corner. Alright, now we need to cut the joinery for the horizontals and the verticals. And what I've done here is I've just drawn a square tracing where the 2 parts overlap. And then I'm going to copy that down, hit enter, times 4. And so that made 4 copies there. And now I'm going to use push-pull. And I'm using the inference to the outside, the vertical component, to the midpoint on that one. And there we go. And you can see the other 2 got cut. Now we have to do the verticals. And so I'm going to, I've got the vertical open for editing. And as you can see, there's minimal, there, now I've got it all the way down. Minimal number entries, minimal calculation, or actually almost no calculation. And the kumiko pattern is done. So now let's make that a component. Just call it kumiko. And now let's put that into the door. And I don't know how Mr. Pekovich actually inserted this into his door, but I'm using the bottom of the rail as the reference for the location, and now we need to modify the door to get that to fit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use what's already made, and so I'm going to grab from this corner and copy those parts straight down to make the intermediate rail. And then I'm going to hide the kumiko for the moment. And we need to get the panel with its 3 slats shortened up. So what I'm going to do here, actually I'll switch to the back edges display. I've got the panel open for editing, and I'm going to drag left to right selection box around that. I don't know if you can see that, but because there's a rabbet on the back edge of the panel, there's those edges and the top of the panel are now selected. I'm going to turn that off just because it's a little easier to see what I'm doing if there's not so much clutter. And I'm going to use the move tool and move this straight down. I went to the top of the top rail, so I'll go to the top of the intermediate rail, and that puts the top of those things in the right place. And I could use push-pull here, but I'll just use move again. So I've selected the top of the rail, and these things are right here at the bottom of this rail here. I've selected the top of the slat. So I'm just going to come down here and set those like so. And now this has got a 1/4 inch wide groove for the door panel. And so I'm going to make a, I don't know if it's an educated guess, but I'm going to make a guess. So I'll unhide the kumiko, and I'm going to shift it back. So let's select it. I'll shift it back here, and then I'm going to basically put it in the groove all the way around. I don't know that that's what Mike did. There's probably a piece of glass in there, and then the kumiko is in front, but I'm just going to do it this way. Let's go ahead and put in a groove in the top. Actually, let's do this first. Make unique. I don't want to put a groove in the top rail, but I want it in this middle rail. And so we go to there, and to there, and there, and if there's any geometry left over, we just delete that. There we go. So that rail has also got that. Now I'll just pull a copy of this out. I know those the groove is a 1/4 of an inch deep. So let's work on a copy of this thing from out here. And what I'm going to do is make the top and bottom horizontals unique. So they stay related to each other, but they're separate from this middle one. And then I'm also going to flip the top one along its blue direction. And then I'm going to repeat this process for the end verticals. I'm going to make them unique, and then I'm going to flip this one along the red direction. And the idea here is that I can add a 1/4 of an inch to those two pieces, and you see it's gone in the right direction there. And then I'm going to do the same here, and let's do this, and by flipping this I get those operations to take place in the desired direction. So that needs to come out there and here, and well, while we're looking at it, we'll do that. And push pull there, and we have to do this horizontal one, which is here, and double click, and you can see I'm not changing the appearance of this little panel. There we go. But now, if I hide those two, for example, you can see that change is all done, and the kumiko fits into the grooves. Just undo that, and it's all finished.